Hey, everybody, welcome back to the PapaJugg Podcast. Just want to do a quick reminder as we launch the episode. We are still crowdfunding for the first annual PJParty whiskey tasting stream that's going to be happening live on Twitch July 31st. So we currently have 1 month to get these funds raised. All you got to do is live in chat, do !whiskey, !tip, or click the link in the description and that will take you straight to the tipping page. All the funds raised through that link will go directly to the whiskey fund. It's not being used for anything else. It is just to bring you a brand new piece of content. So I would appreciate your support. In the meantime, let's get started.
Party people, how you feeling?
How are you feeling? I hope it is fantastic. Welcome back. This is episode 42 of the PapaJugg Podcast. We are currently live on YouTube. If you're catching the audio version of this, thank you for following on Spotify or wherever we're at. So a couple of things. We're gonna talk about a lot of fast facts, and then I'm gonna make a slight change. When I first created the episode earlier this week, I created it and said that we were going to be doing fast facts and I had a thought about that. I changed the I had a thought about that to say what. I think I'll explain it why later, but yeah, we'll get into the fast facts. We'll see what's up. I so love the sound effects I made for this show. Anyways, first things first, there is a brand new trailer for the Wolverine and Deadpool movie. It came out and we get another first look. We saw Sabretooth. If you remember the first X-Men movie that came out way back in like 2000 or something, first X-Men movie comes out, we see a clip of Sabretooth. And when the movie came out, we saw that very, very short scene with Sabretooth. Everybody thought it would be a bigger thing and it never really went anywhere. So now we get to see the fight. So there is going to be a fight between Wolverine and Sabretooth, played by the same guy, which is cool. But that has just come out. That is a brand new trailer for Wolverine and Deadpool. As usual, the Deadpool movies are going to be very, very funny. So I'm looking forward to this one. And we finally get to see a 24-ish year-old promised fight scene. And this is going to be better, I think. Better. Yeah. All right. Up next, we've got two big sales going on. If you have not caught the news yet, there's going to be a July 4th sale on Amazon. I think that is exclusively to Prime members. But there is going to be a Amazon sale on July 4th, and then there's also Amazon Prime Days, which this year are going to be July 16 and 17. So they're coming up. They're going to run into each other. I think that's going to be the way this works, is that because you get pre-sales for both of them, I think the pre-sale for Prime Day is going to run into the end of the July 4th sale, and it's going to be a whole big thing, but whatever. There are a ton of strategies if you want to take advantage of Amazon Prime Day or the July 4th sale. Start putting things on wish lists, bookmarking your link, do whatever you got to do to prep. Some of you are accomplished sales people. And I don't mean people who sell things. I mean people who buy things during sales. So I would definitely make sure you're prepped for that. It is currently June 30th when we are recording this. You may be hearing it on July 1st. Yes, I did not record this on a Friday because I had to go. I was not able to be home for that entire evening, and that was kind of a last minute thing. So whoopsie, my bad. Anyway, so you've got the big Prime sales coming up. Don't forget, especially if you are a gamer or a tech head of any kind, tons of stuff in those categories. You're going to have a plethora of varieties of things to choose from. So make sure you check those out. Again, put things on wish lists, do whatever strategies you've got to implement, and go get your stuff. Okay? Up next, we have, Final 14 Dawntrail. The early access has dropped. I don't play Final Fantasy. I'm going to say that right up front. But here's what I've heard and here's what I've seen. The hearing part is that people love it. People are a huge fan. It's been years in development. I think it was the game developer, is it Yoshida-san? I think he actually came out and said this basically lays the groundwork for the next decade of Final Fantasy XIV. Many of us remember when Final Fantasy XIV dropped, it was a disaster. Nobody liked it. It was all screwed up. Since then, it has become the most profitable title in the entire Final Fantasy franchise. They fixed things. It got better. Storytelling was beautiful. Art was better. Great. But the new Dawntrail has new graphics, an entirely new world, which is based around Central and South America. Normally it's been European based, it's been Asia based. They've really, I think, my assumption, I believe they have played into the larger game audiences. Well, now they were like, wait a minute, we can do South America and it can be really, really gorgeous. And from everything that we've seen so far, all the early access that I've seen, it has been. The graphics are stunning with this new drop. So definitely check out Dawntrail if and when you can. There have been tech issues though. So just so you know, there are some, what I think the last update I saw was they're attributing it to memory fragmentation, but basically there's going to be some transitions that don't work. There's going to be some things that don't render. Xbox specifically is having some issues, but they're working on it. They've said it's the highest priority in the studio. They're trying to get these things resolved. They're talking about hot fixes. They're talking about new patches. So just be on the lookout for that. But again, nothing is perfect, especially on release, and this is early access. So if you have all these things, don't worry about it. They're working on it. You should have them. They're predicting fixed within a week or so, depending on what their internal testing does. So keep an eye out for that. Oh, yes. So again, this is not a political channel. This is never going to be a political community. But it is worth mentioning that the two top U.S. presidential candidates had their first debate for the 2024 election. Yeah, I'll tell you guys the same thing I told my mother, which was, we have two shitty choices. But hey, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Let's move on. Oh, this was a great one. Valve is being sued again. I'm going to read this headline. Valve is being sued in the UK for $843 million. Yes, that is 84% of a billion. Valve is being sued in the UK for $843 million US for overcharging 14 million PC gamers and abusing its dominant position with Steam. This literally came up in the PJParty Discord. We had this conversation, and then I think a lot of people were just like, I'm going to go find evidence. And poof, the lawsuit pops up, and it's like, wow, perfect. We have evidence. Yes, once again, Valve is being sued for Steam. They're being sued for how they price things. They're being sued for how Steam is used in the marketplace. And in the UK, this is a lawsuit to the tune of $843 million US. So, damn. I would love to say it's probably not true, but I don't know if I can. Steam gets Jesus. Every time Steam gets sued for this, they lose because the way Valve runs it is, it's a monopoly. Now, is that Valve's fault? Yeah. Is it Valve's problem? It shouldn't be. The fact that they created the thing that everybody wants to use isn't a bad thing. But the way that they use it is a little kinky. So they're getting nailed. We're going to see where this goes. Of course, it will take forever. 1, because it's the UK. 2, because it's a very complex case. 3, because it involves a lot of money. We'll see where that ends up. Speaking of lawsuits, the RIAA, the recording industry. How do I summarize this? They've sued 2 very popular companies for using their copyrighted songs to train their AI model without authorization. I think that's the fairest thing. Here we go. On the Vergecast, with the help of blah, 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 we dig deep. The new lawsuit filed by the RIAA against 2 AI companies, Udio and Suno. So, they have sued, let's see, citing an en masse copyright infringement, the RIAA and labels sued Udio, the company behind the hit track BBL Drizzy, and Suno, an AI music company with a Microsoft partnership. Again, the lawsuit is fairly basic. I mean, it's not hard. It's just going to be hard to figure out the intellectual property rights involved. Basically, they're saying that a whole ton, like millions of copyrighted songs were fed into these advanced... oh my God, the large language, yeah. Got dumped into the algorithms. The algorithms then learned, and then they're now creating millions of songs. And I will flat out admit, I had one of my fans actually created one for me. And then I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I go and I check it out, and I'm like, cool, I'm making songs now. This is fun. I didn't know that that's how they were trained. It's very interesting. They're good. Like, these large language models, I will give them credit. They're good. I'm very conscientious of copyright infringement. I'm very conscientious of how these things are made, used, built, all of that stuff. And I'm sitting there going, this is actually really good. I didn't realize that they might have been trained on millions of copyrighted songs without authorization. That's the kink right here, is that as these lawsuits progress, and we're getting this with graphic design, we're seeing these lawsuits with graphic design, we're seeing these lawsuits with video production, we're seeing these lawsuits with translations, we're seeing these lawsuits now with music. All of these things are basically saying you're taking protected works of creativity. I'm not going to say art, but creativity. You're feeding it into a model and then spitting out a new version of it. And again, we've talked about this on the show many, many times. This has come up. We're always going to be talking about AI because it changes everything. Said it before and I will say it again. AI and the eventual quantum computing changes everything. That being the case, we're going to keep an eye on how this progresses. So what interests me is, so for example, if a music student, okay, let's say a young Eddie Van Halen listens and learns from every previous guitarist and just like, I love this, I want to learn what they did, I want to learn what they did, I want to learn what they did, I want to learn what they did. They come up with all of these things and then they release Panama. All right. By the way, if you're super young, you have no idea who or what I'm talking about, but that's fine. Learn your music history. So, creates something new after learning from copyrighted content. Oh, okay. What's the difference? That's what both ethically and I think legally, I think is the main issue. What is the difference between a talented artist who studies everything they can get their hands on and then creates their own work of art versus an AI machine getting its hand on everything it can possibly get its hands on and then spitting out a new work of art? Like, do we just shut down universities at this point? I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We can't do calculus today because we can no longer learn from anybody in the past. It's just not possible. We have to protect their works. We cannot learn from them. And now we must invent calculus every day from here on out. I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm genuinely not. I truly don't know the answer to this. There's a lot of questions, and it just leaves me with that issue of we're putting this in the hands of courts, which I think is fair. I don't think that's wrong, but at some point we need some thought leadership from legislatures because they have to write laws for courts to interpret, and the laws don't really exist outside of things like DMCA. You got those types of laws, but that doesn't cover today's issues. That law is 20 years old. I mean, it's like doesn't solve. We're using old laws to solve new problems, and they don't apply. And I think we need to come together as a society and figure out what do we protect, and we can't let this be guided by fear. We really, really can't. All right, let's move on. I've said enough. Let's keep going. We're going to move on to what does the fuck say? Something stupid. We're going to move on to Say What. This was originally going to be I had a thought about that segment. I changed it to Say What because I realized that the thought that I had was all bad. And there's really, I don't want to be... I have two very bad thoughts with this, and they're not... Nobody seems to like them. The first of them is the natural... Actually, you know what? I can't even say that. My first thought with this entire thing is I saw this Dr. Disrespect crap unfolding. We're talking about the Dr. Disrespect. I'm sorry, it's on screen. I forgot some of you are listening to audio. We're talking about Dr. Disrespect. We're talking about the allegations that were finally revealed, the claim that was finally made by an ex-Twitch employee, eventually two ex-Twitch employees, and then the admission from Dr. Disrespect himself. My first thought was, wow, I'm seeing this unfold very large, very rapid. Why is nobody talking about the victim? That was my first thought. Everybody, and I mean everybody, focused on the celebrity. It was all about him. What did he do? What did he not do? What is he doing now? Is he going on vacation? Fuck him. Okay? Can we... Can we please, can our civilization finally move to a point where we stop focusing on the people who do terrible things and we focus on the victims who had to endure them? Is that really such a complicated, hard ask for the world? We're doing this all the time. Let's put it this way. I can talk about a guy named Jeffrey Dahmer. I dare any of you listening or watching to this to name a victim. You can't. You don't. Because that's not what we focus on. That's not what we teach. That's not what we learn. We focus on the terrible, terrible people. And I'm not saying there's no point. There's no point to that. We do need to understand why terrible people do terrible things. But this is one, see, it's kind of like, it's different from like Hitler and the Nazis. It's like you can't name succinctly or even reasonably, you can't name every victim for Hitler's insanity and quest for power and racism. You can't name 50 million people. It's no, not happening. So I'm not saying that. This is one guy with, as we understand it today, I don't know if there's more. No, but I don't think anybody else does either. Maybe Twitch does. Maybe we'll get to who else might know in a minute. One person with one victim. Why are we focusing on the bad guy? Nobody was expressing sympathy for the victim. Nobody was talking about what they might have endured. Nobody was saying, at least just give the basics of expressing sympathy for the victim. Then talk about the celebrity. But that's not what happened. So this was my first thought. Like I said, my first thought doesn't seem to be popular. Everybody wants to talk about Dr. Disrespect. When we saw all these other big streamers with their brave stance, I'm shocked. I'm shook. Shut the fuck up. I don't care how many collabs you've had with Dr. Disrespect. I don't care that he was a friend of yours. The fact that he was a friend of yours probably means I didn't like you to begin with. We seem to be gripped with these people who are leading famous lives who we can tell, like reasonable people look at these folks and they're like, I don't like that, but I love it being entertained. Yay. Okay. All of the streamer statements, all of the shock and awe, and I'm not going to be his friend anymore, and I'm going to unfollow him on Twitter, and like all of this bullshit. They all talked about Dr. Disrespect. They all talked about the perpetrator. None of them talked about the child who was victimized by an adult. Now, we don't have names. I'm not like insane. I understand. We don't have names for this, okay? For this particular victim, we don't know who it is. As far as I know, even the allegations that it is a female child, or was, I don't know how old they are now, the allegations that it was a female child at the time, I think the gender is assumed. I don't think there's any concrete evidence that it was even a girl. It could have been a boy. We don't know. So I get that there's some vagueness around this. We should still be focusing on the victim. We can all very silently, that could have happened. You could have had Tim the Tatman and Nick Merckx and fucking everybody. You could have had everybody do what Shroud did 4 years ago, which was just simply unfollow. It didn't have to be a production. It didn't have to be a goddamn YouTube short, an Instagram reel, and a TikTok. And it didn't have to be any of this crap where it's like, I cannot believe that my friend would do such a thing. I cannot. It didn't have to be any of that. It could have just been a very simple unfollow button. All done. That problem solved. I'm not following. I'm not connecting. I'm done. I am out of that guy's world. And I could put out a statement that said, I am really surprised at what I'm hearing. Or I've always suspected, maybe it's not surprise. Maybe all the surprise is completely fake. Could have been, I've heard the allegations. I'm disappointed in what I'm hearing. I really hope that the victim over the last, by the way, 2017, I'm going to get to a timeline in a minute. I really hope that over these last few years, the victim has not been struggling with this. Hopefully they've had closure and resolution and therapy if necessary. I really hope that the victim in this has received what they need to receive in order to feel more whole. They could have put out anything like that. No. Especially the two shirtless guys. That was just so classy and thought out. I mean, really, really good timing, guys. They go off on these, my friend, and I just, I'm so unbelievably, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Well, then, small tip, and I'm going to give this tip as both a fellow streamer, because I do what you do, just on this scale. I do what you do. And then also as a professional public relations executive. Maybe wait until you know what to say. It's a thought. I'm spitting here. Maybe instead of going live to tens or hundreds of thousands of people and saying, I don't know what to say, maybe you could wait until you know what to say. Again, these are random ideas here. I'm just tossing them out thinking they might be ideas that are worth considering. You could focus on the victim. You didn't. You could wait until you knew what to say. You didn't. You could put a fucking shirt on. You didn't. Maybe just shut up. Just stop talking until you know what to say. And that should have been what Dr. Disrespect did before typing things out on Twitter. I'm gonna get to this. Okay. This is part. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's paragraphs of idiocy. I'm going to read the important part here. Okay. Were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Were there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. There is a report, and I do say report. We have no confirmation of this as far as I can tell. There is a report there is a couple of quotes that Twitch actually had to notify the, oh God, I screwed it up. I think it's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I want to make sure I get the name right because the page keeps crashing on me because it has 80,000, what do you call them? Pop-ups. Where is it? Aha, yes. On June 27th, esports journalist Slasher reported that Dr. Disrespect had continued to send a minor explicit DMs even after learning she was underage. Now, this says she. Again, I don't believe that's confirmed yet. We're making assumptions here. Or there's some back channel info that hasn't been shared with details. Quote, I recall that Dr. Disrespect was made aware by the individual that they were underage during the conversation, after which he indicated that this was no problem and continued on. The employee also cast doubt on Doc's claims that the conversation with the minor only sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate. Quote, there was no confusion. Messages sent after this was acknowledged there were no less graphic and in sexually explicit nature than before, and I think more than the categorization of leaning too much in the direction of being inappropriate might indicate. He knew what he was doing. Okay? For the people who were running out there into the world and saying, well, we need evidence. Has anybody seen the tweet? Yeah. The whispers were seen. That's what prompted the settlement between Twitch and Dr. Disrespect. This is what prompted the ban. This is what. Yes, they've been seen. Dr. Disrespect has admitted he had sent inappropriate messages to a minor via Twitch whispers. Stop denying this. If you're out there trying to defend this guy, please unsubscribe, unfollow, do whatever you have to do for my community. I don't want you here. I truly don't. This is about the victimization of a kid. This is about something that goes back so far and so long that I was left with one specific question immediately after reading his admission, which is, where was the criminal prosecution? If this is what everybody thinks it now is, Dr. Disrespect has confirmed what it is. If this is now what it is, my first thought was, why was he never criminally prosecuted? And then it rapidly dawned on me. In order to have a criminal prosecution, you have to have somebody press charges. She may not have been willing to testify. Literally, her and or her parents may have said, no, she's not getting on the witness stand. How are you going to prosecute this guy? So they may have wanted no trial. In which case they were like, look, we're going to settle. We're going to do this stuff through Twitch. We'll do it through arbitration, through mediation, whoever. Whatever it is, that's fine. Again, there was no focus on the victim in any of the responses. There's no focus from the victim on him, which is fine. I really don't know if he needs to be talking about the victim at this point. I don't know if he's ever apologized to this child personally. I don't know if there has been any support moving forward. We don't know these details yet, and maybe we're not entitled to, and I'm okay with that too. But I do think that it was really shitty for the entire internet community to sit there, and whether they came out in defense of this dirtbag or they were just like, I hate him, and no Dr. Disrespect ever. This is inappropriate. This is intolerable, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it was, everybody was still talking about him. There was nothing really more to talk about with regards to him. Twitch allegations came out. He confirmed them. That's it. Everything after this needs to be about the victim. But no, everybody, including shirtless videos, were talking about the celebrity. And that drove me nuts. It bugged me to no end. We've done in this community, in this PJParty community, we have done fundraisers for kids. Like we have always taken the position to help those who need help. Nobody's talking about the victim who probably needs help. Now, whether this happened in 2017 or 2020 or whatever the timeline is, which, by the way, there is a timeline which is kind of weird, which doesn't make much sense to me because it says that the whispers, blah, 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 suddenly banned. No, that's not what we're talking about. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. There's a claim that this happened in 2017. Oh, that was my second question. Sorry, I said I had a first question, and then I had a second question. The second question was not about the criminal prosecution. The second question was, did this happen in 2017? And if so, how did Twitch only become aware of their whispers in 2020? That made me realize maybe what had occurred was they finally got turned over to Twitch. It is my understanding, and very reasonably, Twitch does not scan every single whisper for content. That's fine. That's understandable. I have no issue with that. So I was wondering if this occurred in 2017, did Twitch only become aware of the whispers in 2020? And then immediately was like, oh shit. So they dug into everything. They pulled out their logs and they're like, yep, you're done. Insta-ban. Permanent ban. So if that's the case, one wonders, was this person a minor in 2017 and then an adult in 2020? Were they still a minor in 2020 when the ban happened? Have they had any sort of contact or further issues involving this case since then? Like the whole thing is just, it needs to focus on the person who was the victim. It needs to focus on the kid, which, that was another thing. Oh my God. I'm sorry. My brain is just tangent right now. As I said before, Dr. Disrespect said, these were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much in the direction of being inappropriate, ... I would hope, clearly this was not written or at least run through Dr. Disrespect's attorney, because I cannot imagine an attorney approving this. I just can't fathom an attorney saying, yeah, this is a good idea, because it's not. And here's why. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much in the direction of being inappropriate. Newsflash, you can't have a mutual, the implication is mutually consenting. Of course it's mutual. It's a dialogue, dumbass. We get that it's mutual, but you're implying that it's mutually consented. You can't have consent from a minor. Literally, even if the minor contacts you, whether they initiate it or not, it's not mutual consent. There is no mutual consent. It's a minor. They don't have consent. It's not a thing. So casual, mutual conversations. We're now hearing that they're not casual. We're not hearing that they're not mutual. And we're now hearing that Twitch was aware of it and killed your ass. And they banned you. So fine. From a moral standpoint, I'll absolutely take responsibility. Who cares? I think I said what I've needed to say regarding the ban itself. That's it. That's why Twitch made the decision in 2020. I'm not even going to read the next part because it pissed me off because he focused on him again. He had to make this all about him. Again, I don't know if there was a lawyer involved, but they failed. I don't know if there was a PR company involved or a PR rep involved. They failed. This is all bad. There's no focus on the victim. That was where our community failed. That was where content creators failed. That was where streamers failed. That was where journalists failed. Now, I'm going to back that up for a second. Journalists can only go so far. Journalists cannot and should not be revealing victims who maybe don't want to be revealed or who have not already been revealed and confirmed other ways. Maybe a court had to release a document that had the victim's name on it or whatever. But for the most part, a respectable journalist will not release a victim's name, especially involving minors, unless it's already been done or unless it is with consent. So I'm going to retract and clarify what I said about the journalists. As far as we know, the journalists who have been trying to cover this case since it occurred in 2020 have all basically said the same thing. We would love to publish a story, but we never met somebody who was in the room. And what they mean by that is somebody who was either involved on Twitch's side to make the ban decision or somebody from Dr. Disrespect's camp. They've never found anybody who was able to go on the record and say, here's the facts from a first-hand account. So, yeah. Okay, so there's a comment in the live chat that says a minor's identity should never be revealed. I'm sorry, minors in general should not be revealed. There are exceptions to that when you have something like, go back 30 years and you've got the JonBenet Ramsey case. Revealing the name of that little girl was fine because it humanized the victim. It wasn't just small Colorado girl gets murdered in house. Knowing her name, which had to be revealed anyway because it was going to be in court papers. And it was very easy to determine that because her parents were sort of prime suspects, ? Anyways, so there are cases where minors do get revealed, but in a case like this where I'm going to assume the minor is still alive, the minor is still probably dealing with the fact that they have had to, and I said this on Twitter, I'm very concerned with the fact that this victim has had to watch their attacker earn millions of dollars being famous and people loving them. That's a struggle. Like for me, anyways, I'm going to personalize that. If I was the victim in this particular case and I had an adult sending me very inappropriate messages as a child, potentially graphically explicit, if I then had to watch that same person day after day become more and more famous with deals from everybody to the 49ers to video game companies that he's launching, millions of dollars in on-stream revenue and ad revenue and subs and bits and whatever. Well, let me take the bits part back. Nope. YouTube revenue and all of that. I think I would struggle with that one. I would personally have an issue where I'm watching a monster become publicly adored. That's pretty tough. So again, my concern was, I posted this on X. It was a matter of, how has this person been doing watching their attacker gain more fame and power and money? That's going to be a struggle for me. So I think that's an issue. Another live chat question. What if the minor has been emancipated? Does the law require permission from their parents or guardians? No. Once they're an adult, they're an adult. They can consent to whatever they want. The details of this case reflect that. So I'm sorry, I keep calling it a case. There is no criminal case here. The details of the scenario basically dictate that this person was a minor at the time, which means age or not, they're no longer considered minors. So it doesn't say he was sending explicit messages with an emancipated minor. If it was an emancipated minor, there's kind of no issue there. At that point, they're making legal adult decisions. I don't know where the age of consent laws would kick in. Like, we don't know what state this person was in. We believe they were in the United States because they were supposed to meet at TwitchCon. That was part of this whole issue, was that they were supposed to meet at TwitchCon, and Dr. Disrespect even addressed that in the scenario, in his statement. He said, "We never met." Okay. I'm really fucking glad to hear that. So an emancipated minor is a different category, and at this point, we have no reason to believe that that was the case. This was an underage child. This was somebody who did not have mutual consent ability, and they were being sent explicit content from an adult. So there's that. Anyways, so all of these issues I think are important. I think that we need to hold celebrities to a higher standard. We can't just accept that they're entertaining us and say, well, that gives them a pass on other things. There is a person in the world, and I'm not saying the whole world needs to change for one victim. We should look out for that victim, but at the same time, Dr. Disrespect has been widely known to make morally questionable decisions. A few years ago, he admitted to having an affair on his wife. So this is not the first time. Okay, so this is not the first time that this guy has not really been bound by the laws or morality of marriage. And yet people are still willing to defend. People are still willing to send money. We really need to look for good people. Support the people that are making, good public decisions. And I'm not saying we need to all become the ethics police, but at the same time, when we see issues, maybe we wait. Maybe we don't jump onto the fan bandwagon and say, well, those have never been proved, so I don't care. Maybe we wait to see if they're proven. Just give it time. These are all options. So today what we were talking about was what was said, and I think more importantly, this is probably the very first segment for the PapaJugg podcast where we're actually focusing on what wasn't said. And what wasn't said was a whole lot of concern for a victim, a child. There was a whole lot of concern for a celebrity. There was a whole lot of talking about a celebrity. There wasn't a whole lot of talking about for the child who was the victim in this. And that's what I think sucks. So, I don't know. Maybe I should have renamed this Say What Not. I don't know. Maybe that would have been a better segment for this, because what really bothered me was what wasn't said versus what was. So that's where I'm going to leave it tonight, folks. That is episode 42. Thank you very much for tuning in. And again, if you are not yet subscribed on the YouTube channel, please head over to YouTube. It's youtube.com/@PapaJuggernaut. Drop your subscription over there. And then if you could, also, if you're listening to the audio of this, but you are not yet following on things like iHeart or iTunes or Spotify or wherever, please do me a favor and follow or sub or whatever the button says. Click that thing and it'd be awesome. I appreciate it. We are back in... Shit, the sound doesn't work. We are back on Twitch on Monday night. And then we are going to be on our usual schedule of Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on Twitch, and then back right here on Friday night again for episode 43 of the PapaJugg Podcast. I hope you all have yourself a good morning, a good day, a good night, whatever it is for you. And I will see you next time. See ya!